Hi and welcome. It's tough being a student, and many of our students suffer stresses and burdens that we might not know of and might not even be able to imagine. So as teachers, we should support our students as best we can, but how exactly do we do that? In this video, I'll talk about some of the ways that I've supported students, and since the context of your teaching might be different from mine, I'll try to draw some more general insights from my particular experiences that you might find useful. 2 years ago, I was to teach the course Math 3411, which is a beautiful course. I love it, and so do my students. It's quite a happy and popular course. I've taught it several times before, but 2 years ago I was a little bit worried because that was the year that COVID struck. So COVID struck in the beginning of the year. The course was to happen in the third trimester, and in the meantime I thought, well, maybe people would get tired, run down, lonely, stressed, depressed, unmotivated, disconnected, and so forth. And I was really worried about people's mental health. I was thinking, how can I help these people? And one way that I thought was, well, if I can turn this course into like a safe haven where we all enjoy the beautiful mathematics together, get some deep understanding, and also, of course, some good marks, then maybe people could forget the worries of the world in general and just be happy in this space. Of course, in order for that to happen, I needed to engineer or induce a happy learning community. And how do you do that? Well, you can't just go up to 333 people and say, hey, form a community. You have to give some structure and some guidelines and take it step by step. The first step was to be warm and welcoming. Hi and welcome. And that was in lectures and tutorials, but also in course announcements, in the course contents themselves and on a social network and so forth. This was to indicate part of a broader social contract that I was proposing and wanting to promote, which was that I was here to support you. I'd do everything that I could to support you. I'd go out of my way to support you as a person and as a student with your learning, but also your well-being. In return, though, I'd like you to work hard, trust this contract, trust the course, trust me, and trust each other, and not least, support each other. And if you did that, then we'd all be happy and all do well and even get a good grade. So to reinforce all of this, I had as course motto, HD for the win, implying that if you did support each other, if you did trust this system, this contract, then you could get a good grade as well. So don't worry about the grades. You'll get that if you work hard and do all of this. It's not a zero-sum game, the grades, and so forth. So that was trying to break down barriers and construct a social construct. Next, you've got to have something in common if you're a community. So to begin with, that had to be me and the course content. In lectures and tutorials, I was very excitable and excited and exuberant. And the content I chose to be particularly exciting and fascinating, especially in the beginning of the course and towards the end of the course as well. This made everyone happy and excited together. So this was the initial forming of a community. But you also need some goals as a community. And the first big common goal was the first test of the term in week 4. Just like the other tests, there were 3 of them. It was an online test designed so that if you understood the underlying content deeply, then it was really easy. But if you didn't, it wasn't. I'd also made them heavily randomized so that you could practice the tests. And I let people practice it for a month in advance of the test date so that people knew what they would be asked about. But every time you tried the test or practiced it, there'd be slightly different numbers and just slight variations to the 10 questions in each of the tests. So you couldn't just rote learn, you'd have to understand the underlying content. And to help people do that and to help them help each other, I provided a common platform, a common forum, which was the Piazza Forum, but there are other good forums as well. The reason that I chose the Piazza Forum was that it's a good forum, it's easy to use, but most importantly that it lets people feel safe. As a student, you can post questions and answers and comments completely anonymously, even to me. I don't know who people are if they choose to be completely anonymous. Or you can be open and everyone knows who you are, or something in between, various levels of anonymity. But that anonymity and feeling safe allowed everyone to join the forum. Basically everyone did, all of the students did, and interact and not feel stupid asking questions and not feeling scared if they gave some constructive feedback. Like, hey, your microphone is a little bit too quiet or whatever. Finally, All of this is great, social infrastructure, and already the emergence of a community was taking place, but it could still feel a little bit apersonal. So to make people more connected and feel that, yes, this is about you, not just about the cohort and but yes, you, I'm here to support you, and please, be part of it all. I sent emails in week 3 and week 9, so in the beginning and towards the end, just to ask people, every one of the students, how are you doing? How are you? Are you okay? Especially given the tough circumstances of 2020. And is there anything that I can do to help or adjust in the course or help you personally? And I made sure to emphasize that this was just a casual check-in that they didn't need to respond to or worry about, but if they wanted to, or even if they just wanted to have a chat, then I was here and I'd be more than happy to hear from them. And roughly 20 to 25% of students, 70 roughly, did respond in each of those rounds of emails. And most were just happy, yay, this is a great course, I'm doing well, and thank you, this is great. Some people were happy but had some constructive feedback. Oh, your microphone's a little... But some students actually had some actual problems. So I could then talk about this with them, and in most cases we could actually solve these problems and help people. So this meant that people weren't falling through the cracks or feeling, oh no, my problems aren't important enough to bother the teacher with, or I'm not important enough to contact the teacher. This was quite helpful, these emails. So what does all of this amount to? So what was the outcome? Well, there were several outcomes and all of them really positive. So first of all, the engagement in class was amazing, far better than I've experienced even in the previous very happy times in lectures and tutorials. In each lecture there were hundreds of questions and answers and discussions and comments, and very, very happy. And that meant that I could actually get through more material at greater depth, more effectively, because people were helping each other answer while I continued. But also, if they didn't understand things, then they'd ask, and then I could stop up, explain it, and then move on so that people didn't get lost. It was also remarkably equitable, like everyone just joined in the lectures and tutorials in a way that I've never seen in real life. Usually face-to-face teaching, there are some students who say a lot and then the rest don't say much at all. But here everyone just joined in freely and happily, and that was wonderful to see, and that was also the case in the forum. Academically, the students did fantastically. The midterm tests, which were around about worth 40 marks, almost half of the course. In previous years, with the paper tests, people had done pretty well, getting roughly 79% on average through the years. But here, it wasn't just 79, it was 92%. So everyone really got on board with practicing those tests, even though those tests were actually harder online than the paper versions. They did so well, they understood the content really well, got really into it. Sort of like a gaming community, actually, treating this like a game. And I heard from several students that they actually found these tests to be fun. And not just to have 10 out of 10 or 15 out of 15, crush the test, but even start speed running them. It's there's real engagement and real desire to learn the content, and a lot of joy and happiness there. Even better than this was the level of happiness and community support. For one thing, everyone does seem to be part of the community and support each other really warmly to an extent that I haven't seen before. Also, the happiness was far better than I'd experienced in the course before. And I thought, is that really true, or is it just me imagining things? So I posted a survey after the course to say, well, was this true? And they said, yep. On average, people said, yes, I felt happier than ever in previous courses, and I did feel even more part of a community than I've ever felt before as well. So this was fantastic. And one thing that really stood out to me in all of this was just one little detail on the Piazza Forum. The roughly 2,500 questions, comments, and so forth, which I read all of them during the course of the course. Not a single one was negative. There was no harassment, no bullying, no negative sarcasm, anything like that. All of them were either factual or warmly supportive. And I find that incredible, because most of these contributions were posted anonymously, so people could be nasty if they wanted to, but they weren't. Not a single one, not a single occasion, even despite stresses and everything. So I'm very, very impressed and grateful to my students for that. All of this amounted also to that people passed the course very well. There was a 3% failure rate. Next year, we had COVID again, and I repeated many of these measures with slight adjustments, and people were even happier. So all of this made me reflect and wonder about this, because I'd expected some good outcomes, but I must admit I was surprised by the level of happiness and the degree of positive outcomes here. I'd expected something good, but not that great. So I reflected on it and thought a bit about just why these things were as they were, and reached some insights and conclusions, some of which I'll now share to you now. First of all, preventative support is effective. If you can create a warmly supportive course environment and community, then people are less bound to fall through the cracks or fall behind or get depressed. So it's a bit like an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Preventative support is really good. Second, online learning can be much more happy and effective than in-person learning. And if you think about it, that's maybe not so surprising. In person, there are all sorts of interactions and dynamics, group dynamics, and just personal chemistry that's going on, some of which is really positive, might be even more positive than what you might get online. But you do also have negatives, especially if you have a large cohort. If you can get rid of the negatives, which basically happened in this course, and then you sort of have an equalizer where you might remove some of the top happiness, but on average, the average happiness will be bigger, and it's going to be more inclusive and broad too. You're going to have a lot more equity and people joining in regardless of whether they feel shy usually, or whether they'd be feeling judged, or whether they're judging others on appearance, or where you come from, or your accent, or social groupings that they might feel that you're part of or that they're part of, and so forth and so on. All of that interaction gets a little bit equalized and lets people happily join in, which was the case here. The next point is that, look, I've always cared a lot for my students, always gone out of my way to support students, but I'm just one person and there were 333 students in the course. So if I can get everyone to support each other, then that's far more effective than what I can ever do on my own. So support students to support each other. The fourth point is that most of the things that I've been talking about are simple and easy things to do. It's not rocket science. Say hi and welcome and actually mean it. You know, it's a small thing, but it makes a big difference. So even though the context of your teaching might be different from mine, there should be some small and easy things for you to do that really have great impact for students. And one of them, and that's the final point, is just that you should care. None of this will work properly if you don't care, if you don't give a damn. And that's in interactions with students. It's when you design the course and its structure and its curriculum, and in your interactions. Use empathy, use caring, use compassion, actively and deliberately to figure out who is it that I'm dealing with and how can I best help them, and just show that you actually notice them. Things like that should be obvious, and you might think, don't we all do that? But unfortunately, and I was quite shocked to find out about this, according to the student feedback that I've got through the years, this is actually rare. It's rare that we care, and we should do much better as teachers. There should be much more emphasis on caring. So this is both an insight but also a plea. Please care. Finally, care about yourself as well. Just like our students need support, we need support, and we should support each other. The university has some excellent support structures. It's also good to just reach out to a colleague and have a chat. And for that matter, please feel free to contact me, email or chat, whatever you want, to talk about any of these things. I'd be more than happy to hear from you. Good luck, and please enjoy.